Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a fun but expensive card game. When a playset of lightning storms and other staples cost $100 a piece, how are you even supposed to afford it? Rather than taking the reckless sealed only route and relying on luck only, I'm going to be taking a much more practical approach. Using my knowledge of the market and just $10 a week, my goal is to climb the competitive ladder and eventually top a YCS or Nationals. This is Yu-Gi-Oh! On a Budget. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel and welcome to another episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! On a Budget. So today we have invested our money into our first set of hand traps. So today we are playing 3 copies of PSY-Frame Gear Gamma, and of course we have to play the 1 brick, so the 1 copy of PSY-Frame Driver. And obviously we have to have a little bit of an extract monster to accompany it, so we also invested into a copy of PSY-Frame Lord Omega. So obviously this is really nice, especially because I think that this is the cheapest hand trap that is the most effective, for cost wise at least. I think these are roughly like $1.50, like $1 and $1, something around those lines. So they realistically weren't like too expensive, and we saved quite a bit of money. Obviously, like as always, the prices are up on the screen right now, and yeah, we saved a little bit of money with this engine. I thought these were going to be more expensive, but we got lucky and they were pretty cheap actually. But the really nice thing about this is that obviously it can stop like normal summons, which you usually will just pass your opponent's turn if their normal summon is like negated. So that's really nice. And I think that that's going to be really impactful, but it also can guarantee some of our plays go through. So obviously you have to activate it when there's no monsters on the field, so this isn't going to help a whole lot when we normal summon like our Oviraptor and they Ash it or Veiler or Imperm. Obviously this can't negate Imperm anyways, but it won't be effective in any of those situations, but that's why we have Miscellaneous Source anyways. So Miscellaneous Source can protect those situations, but the situation that we've had in the past where it sucks is if they Ash our Fossil Dig. So Fossil Dig isn't a dinosaur type monster, so obviously they can Ash it, and it's probably the most effective card for them to Ash. So the really nice thing about this is that we have no monsters on the field. We can chain our Gamma, summon our Driver, and then we are basically off to the races at that point. We can just, summon these, make an Omega, which is really nice, or another option that we can do is another card that we invested in the previous episodes. We can link off our Driver into a Link Spider, and then we can use the Link Spider and the Gamma as material for a Pentastag, and then we can just, make like a Conductor Tyranno and deal piercing, and it's going to be really great. So I think that is going to be really fantastic. I'm pretty excited to see what Gamma can do. Another situation is that a lot of people are not hand trapping our Oviraptor, which is really good. They're playing smart, right? Because like if they hand trap the Oviraptor and you have the miss, you just negate the hand trap, right? Effectively. And so a lot of people are just not hand trapping Oviraptor, which is honestly the right play. So I think that from now on, I think the correct play is to start off with the normal or the activation of Miscellaneous Source, and then if they hand trap you, obviously they were going to hand trap you anyways, since you can't you can affect the dinos in the graveyard. But then we banish the miss for our copy of Dirac ALO, and then we normal summon our Oviraptor. So this does 2 things. So the really nice thing that it does is it plays around strike. So we've had that issue before where we've gotten striked on our normal summon of Oviraptor, and obviously you can't chain Miscellaneous Source since it's not a spell speed 3, it's a spell speed 2. So the quick effect, you can't chain to Solemn Strike. This will play around it because we activate the miss preemptively, and they're not going to hand trap our Oviraptor anyways, so this plays around strike. The next thing that it does is that if they happen to have a hand trap for the Miscellaneous Source in the graveyard, we have no monsters on the field, which means we can use our Gamma. So that we can special summon our Gamma, make the Omega, and then we're pretty much good. We can hit another card out of their hand if we'd like to, which is really nice, or we can push for a lot of damage by just making the Chumbara. So we can have a lot of ways to just put more damage on the board, especially if we resolve Gamma on our turn, we essentially win the duel. There's like not very many situations where you resolve Gamma and you don't lose the duel, at least on your turn. But yeah, that is really fantastic. Another option, which I don't think will come up, is if they have a monster we're playing into a board and we draw Lost World and Pankratops. I don't think this will come up, especially because Pankratops is limited and our Gamma. What we can do is we can activate Lost World. If they have a monster, we special summon our Pankratops, give them a token, then we can use our Pankratops to go ahead and hit the token, and this is a point where they could hand trap us, right? They could, or they can just use any of their negates on the Pinkertops. If they don't, we can use our Lost World to send Baby Source, and then Baby's Engrave. If they ash us, we chain Gamma. So I don't think that situation is going to come up very often, if at all, but that is another situation that might come up. I don't think it will, though, but it's going to be a really effective way to push for damage, especially if we can put Chambara, Omega, and Conductor Tyranno on the board. That would be absolutely nutty. If we can put all three of these monsters on the board at the same time, that's like pretty much 10,000 damage, I think. I think it's actually 9,900, or I think it's 1009 actually. I think I did my math wrong. But I'm really excited to see what this can do. I hope you guys are too, and let's go ahead and get into the deck profile. So we've made a couple changes to our deck today. Most notably, we took out our Rescue Rabbit package. I know this has inherent synergy with the PSY-Frame engine, obviously, since you can just banish your Rescue Rabbit, they ash you, you chain Gamma. So that like has inherent synergy. However, I think that it is essentially just too many bricks in our deck. If we happen to draw Rescue Rabbit, Oviraptor, it's like, you know, we have two normal summons in our hand. It's basically useless, and I've switched it out with another card that also has synergy with Gamma, and I think that it is going to be more impactful. So we'll go ahead and get into the list. So we obviously have basically the same like standard 3 ofs from the last episodes. So 3 Oviraptor, 3 Misc, 3 Conductor Tyranno, and the 3 Baby Saurus. So like all of these are pretty much standard in our current build. Like I said, we're going to eventually be cutting the Conductor Tyranno to 1, or not 1, to 2, but we just don't have, we still have like so much unfilled slots in our deck that I still think that it's worth playing the 3, especially since it's like not a bad top deck at all. So I think that's pretty nice. And let's go ahead and get into the monsters. So obviously 1 copy of Dino Wrestler Pinkertops, 1 Tyranno Infinity, which is essentially just a placeholder for anything else at the current moment, most notably Giant Rex. 1 copy of Patina Ranodon, and finally the 1 copy of Dracula that we picked up from the last episode. So these are all the 1-ofs. I think they're pretty much like standard at this point. The Patina Ranodon might go to like 2 copies eventually, but maybe not. I mean, we're probably going to be cutting down at some point. And then one last one of we're playing 1 Megalo Smasher, because this is still searchable with Fossil Dig, which is really nice, and it comes up sometimes in hands where you draw this plus Survival's End, or Fossil Dig Survival's End, and you want to get your Dino engine started. This is an option to do it, and it puts up an interruption on your opponent's turn, which I might actually go over, since I've never gone over it before, but I'll probably go over it after the deck profile. Then for our new hand traps, 3 copies of PSY-Frame Gear Gamma and PSY-Frame Driver, just fantastic cards. And then with obvious synergy with those, we have the 3 copies of Fossil Dig, and we've bumped up another card, which is 3 copies of Unexpected Die. So this was originally at 2 copies because I didn't want to, it was basically a once per turn card, right? But it already has inherent synergy with the Gamma, so I figured I might as well try it at 2, or not 2, at 3, give it a shot. If we don't like it, we can go back to 1 or 2 copies, and we'll probably play just fine. In future builds, I think that this is just going to be a hand trap as well, just like Veilers or Ashes or Nibiru's, something like that, but we're not there yet. We don't have the current budget for that. Then for the rest of the spells, the 1 copy of Terraforming and the 3 copies of Lost World. This makes a lot of sense. Lost World is an insane card, gets your entire engine started, although sometimes it takes a battle phase, but that's not a big deal at all, especially if you can put up a pretty nice board after the fact. Then for trap cards, we have 3 copies of Paleozoic Morella, 3 copies of Survival's End, and 3 copies of Grindhorn of Heaven. Obviously, we are still trying to go first, especially since I think that Gamma is better going first in this deck specifically. It won't be good if our opponent doesn't draw a hand trap, but that's okay. So maybe going second, it's also like really nice, but eventually we're if we side, we're probably going to be taking these out for the spell. I can't remember the exact name. I think Swords of Concealing Light is the name actually, but we'll go ahead and get into the extra deck now. So we have 9 cards in our extra deck, almost to double digits. So for synchros, we have the Omega and the Chambara to push for damage. both of these are just fantastic cards. If we do play against Dogmatica, this actually will come up, so we'll see. I don't think that it will, but it might. Then for rank 4s, we have Dweller, Lagia, Tornado. I think that there's nothing to say about this. Obviously, I think these have been really good in the past so far. Then for links, we have Penistag, Phoenix, and 2 copies of Spider. So this makes a lot of sense. Obviously, the Link Spiders were originally for our Rescue Rabbit. They don't have too much of a use anymore, but we can still use them for our like PSY-Frame driver. So I guess like technically these aren't like good investments long term, but that's okay. I mean, what can you really do? If we happen to play against a Dino Mirror, maybe we can like link these off or something, or link off the token they give us. I don't know. I don't know if that'll ever come up, but it might. But it does come up in the situation where we can use Penistag, but for now they're basically Dogmatica targets if they happen to snipe our extra deck or whatever, so we can just send a Link Spider and an Omega, so that'd be kind of funny, but we'll see. Then for spells, we have 3 copies of Burial from a different dimension. Still have yet to find a use for this card, so we might just like trade this off for something else, but I don't know. 3 copies of Twin Twisters, 3 copies of Swords of Concealing Light for going second. This card is just absolutely fantastic. Just being able to, you know, UCT without having UCT on field is really good. 3 copies of Type Force Ceratops, and 3 copies of Quaking Mirror Force. So I don't think that there's a whole lot to say about this. This is just, you know, what we can play at the current moment. We don't have access to very good cards outside of like the 3, like realistically the best cards in the side deck are the 3 Swords of Concealing Light, the 3 Quaking, and the 3 Twin Twisters. Everything else is pretty much useless. Like these have actual uses in this current format. Being able to book like Xyz monsters with the battle phase is pretty nice. Swords of Concealing Light to like bait negates, and the Twin Twisters to like for just generic backrow decks. So like I think that these cards are actually like pretty useful, but the other 6 are just kind of decent. But I will actually go over the combo now. So I didn't mention this like in previous episodes. I really should have. I don't remember. I'm pretty sure I didn't at least. But basically the combo is if you have a Megalo Smasher and a Survival's End, you can basically do the same thing as the Baby Sarasaurus with the Paleozoic Morella combo. It's essentially the same thing. So what the combo is you essentially just normal summon your Megalo Smasher, set your card, and pass your turn. So this board is obviously very similar to the Baby Sarasaurus combo. And then obviously when you want to interrupt them, you just use your Survival's End, kill your Megalo Smasher, and it's going to special summon a dinosaur from your deck. Unfortunately this is ashable, but I mean obviously so is the Paleozoic Morella. These go to grave, and then you can use your Survival's End targeting your Baby Sarasaurus, pop it, and pop a card on your opponent's field. So it's essentially the same thing. It also gets your Dino Engine started because Baby Sarasaurus will get you an Oviraptor, and then you can obviously search for like a Conductor Tyranno since you have 2 dinos in grave at this moment. So I guess it's like technically a little bit better since you actually have the 2 dinos for your Conductor Tyranno. But it's also an option to search for Oviraptor since he doesn't have a clause that can't search for himself, so that's pretty neat. Alright, well that's going to do it for today's deck profile. I'm pretty excited to see how well this PSY-Frame engine turns out to be. So let's go ahead and see how well it does. Alright, so this is the list put together in Dueling Book. And like I said, we just made a couple changes, taking out the Rescue Rabbits and a couple copies of Megalo Smasher in favor of the Gamma Engine and the Unexpected Die. Other than that, there's really realistically like no other changes to the list. It's pretty much standard, but as I was making this episode, the ban list came out, and I'm happy to announce that Miscellaneous Source was completely untouched. While we don't have to play just the 3 copy, well we don't have to play 1 copy, we can play 3, which is really nice. That means that this series is going to continue at least for 3 more months, which is pretty exciting. I am very happy about this. I know a lot of people are going to hate, like, you know, that dinos are still around, but realistically, I don't think it's, like, too strong of a deck. But you know what? We get 3 more months with this deck, so I think that it is pretty exciting. And with all of that said, let's go ahead and get into some matches. Alright, so all of our matches today are going to be in the ranked ladder in Dueling Book. So let's go ahead and get into our first one. Looks like we are up against Phantom Knight Orcus, which is kind of like a callback to the first episode because we did play against a similar deck as this. So we're starting off, we go with a normal summon of Oviraptor, use the effect as Chainlink 1, and our Lost World as Chainlink 2, giving our opponent a token. We search for Miscellaneous Source, use the effect, dump it to the graveyard so we have a target for our Oviraptor, and then we'll use our Oviraptor to target the token, and then we'll use our our Lost World to Protect to send Babysitter Source to the graveyard to special summon a miscellaneous source from the deck. Then we're going to overlay those for a copy of Lagia, and we're going to banish a Miss and the baby out of our graveyard to get a level 2 Dino, which is Babysitter Source from our deck. During the standby phase, we're going to use not the standby phase. During the end phase, we use Babysitter Source's effect to get a Petite Renodon. Then during the standby phase, we're going to use Morella to send Survival's End to the graveyard. This effectively means that we have 3 interruptions on our opponent's turn. We have a Lagia that will negate something, the Survival's End that will pop something, and we're going to summon a Dynamax Pankratops, which is also going to pop something as well. So 3 interruptions, 2 being pops. I think that is pretty effective. He normal summons Crusader Arborea. I knew Crusader is pretty like they have a hard time playing through their normal summon getting Handtrap, so I decided to go ahead and hit that. He uses Danger Mothman and gets it to the field, draws a card, and then he uses his Danger Jackalope, discarding the Orcus Nightmare to special summon that from the hand as well. So he's going to get a second draw here as well. So he's also on the Phantomite engine. I don't know if I mentioned that at first, but yeah, he is on the Phantomite engine. He uses Orcus Nightmare. He tries to target the Mothman, but I remind him that he can only target tokens with Lost World on the field. He still opts to target the token, which is just fine. World 1 is going to bring back the Orcus Nightmare back from the banished zone, and he's going to link off into a Galatea. And the Galatea is a perfect time for us to hit him with the Lagia, because if he tries to reborn it, he actually can't because it wasn't summoned properly. Then I decide to go ahead and I believe he passed his turn, so I use the Pankratops on the token, and then I use Lost World to protect it, sending a baby, specialing Ovi, searching for a Conductor Tyranno. On my turn, I use the Oviraptor to kill the token, and then special summon an Oviraptor. I use Oviraptor to search for another Conductor Tyranno, and then I normal summon my Megalo Smasher and use the effect of Lost World to give him a token, which he forgot to pop his token, so effectively we're at the same spot as we were before. Tornado Dragon's going to clear the last back row, and at this point we should have enough dinos in the graveyard to get our Conductor Tyranno on the field, go for a Pentastag, and I believe we have enough damage here. I don't remember. The 35 and the, let's see, so that would be 22, so I think that's 57, 11, and 16. I think that is enough. But we had a second Conductor Tyranno in game if it wasn't enough anyways. I was just doing the math in my head, but he decided to scoop. So we are going into game number 2. I believe that he opts to go first this time, so he's going to set a card face down and start off with a copy of Dangerous Tsukinoko, which is going to hit this Overtext Coatless out of his hand. He's going to draw a Triple Tactics Talent and search for a Double Evolution Pill. He's going to go into Verte Anaconda, and I could hit this Verte with a Gamma here. I am playing in fear of the Triple Tactics Talent, so I'm not really like I'm pretty afraid of it, honestly, and I figure that I can just do it on my turn, which actually worked out really well for me since he actually had a Triple Tactics Talent in hand. So he's going to use his boots, I believe, getting search for Fogblade, and he has 3 interruptions set up here, right? He has the Coatless, which can do a Spell Trap negate, a Dragoon, which is a negate anything, and the Fogblade is the back row. So I start off with the Pankratops targeting the Coatless. I think in hindsight it was better for me to target the face down, which I knew was Fogblade at the time. He ends up using Coatless's effect. He says that's fine. He could have negated that with the Dragoon, which is a little strange to me. So I go ahead and I special summon the Gamma and the Driver out of the deck. I go ahead and go into a Phoenix, which is going to attempt to clear the last back row, which I know is Fogblade. Realistically, I should have just done this in the first place, but it's fine. I think it's all going to work out just fine. So Conductor Tyranno is going to hit the board here, and I go ahead and I attempt to pop the Phoenix, I believe. And then I go ahead in battle phase, use my Driver to attack over the Verte, and then I use the Driver. The Driver gets banished during the end phase, so yeah. Morella is going to go ahead and send a Survival's End to the graveyard. The Fogblade falls off, and I believe he pops it with the Conductor Tyranno, and then he can just attack me for game, since I was pretty low on life points. So we're going to be going into game number 3. Dragoon is a really big problem, obviously, for this deck, as you can tell. But I go ahead and I just set a Survival's End and pass my turn. He starts off with a Dolphin, discarding the Ancient Cloak. I hit him with a Gamma here, because I think this is actually going to be pretty effective, since I have the Survival's End, which is ironically going to come up here because Driver is a normal monster. And I also should have used it on the Shade Brigandine here, since Shade Brigandine is also considered a normal monster. I should have just done it in fear of him going into Isolde, which he does here anyways. He's just going to make an Isolde. And yeah, I definitely should have used my Survival's End on the copy of Shade Brigadine and the driver to get 2 dinos out of my deck. That would have been really nice, but I decided not to for some reason. So he goes into an Isolde, and I tell him before he uses the second effect, he gets to search for a Dark Grepher, which is fine. But the second effect, I decide to go ahead and use my Survival Zen, pop the driver, special summon a Petite Pteranodon, and use the effect of Survival Zen to pop it, and special summon a Pankratops on my turn, so I have a second interruption. He passes his turn, which is fine. I go ahead and I start my turn. And I drew into an unexpected die, which I think is pretty nice here, because I can get into my Chambara FTK or OTK in a very unconventional way, because I can go ahead and use my unexpected die to get my Megalo Smasher, and then I can summon a Conductor Tyranno by banishing 2 dinos out of the graveyard. And like in the last episode, that's 8100 damage, and we didn't even use Oviraptor or Miscellaneousaurus to get to it, which is, I think, pretty ironic. So he goes ahead. He didn't realize that Chambara gains on the damage step, but we go ahead and correct that game state, and it was a pretty nice 2-1 victory for me. Our next match is a rather annoying match, which is against Stun, and obviously he wins the die roll, rock, paper, scissors, whichever you like to call it, and he opts to go first, and he starts off with his copy of Potted Desires. Obviously we don't have an Ash for it, so we let it go through. I believe he draws a Phantomite Sword and a Dark Magician here. Yep, and then he's going to go ahead and normal summon the Inspector Border, set 3 back row, and basically pass his turn. So we know he's on the Dragoon engine. Well, I didn't at the current moment, but I go ahead and start my turn. Unfortunately, I drew the driver, which is a brick. I decide to set 2 back row and normal summon a Baby Sarosaurus and pass my turn. During the standby phase of his turn, I use the Morella to send a Survival Zen to the graveyard, and a new chain. I'm going to use the Survival Zen's effect to go ahead and pop both, and he flips the Phantomite Sword to protect it. I decide to chain my Paleozoic Morella to special summon it back to the field. Unfortunately, my Baby Sarosaurus won't get an effect, even though it was destroyed, and it is a mandatory effect because of the Inspector Border. Then my Survival Zen's going to kill the Morella, special summon a Petite Pteranodon, and then I'm going to use the other effect of Survival Zen, targeting Petite Pteranodon and the Inspector Border, destroying both, and then my Petite Pteranodon is going to get a Dinosaur Pankratops from my deck. And then he goes ahead and he starts off with a Red Eyes Fusion. And I'm basically forced to use my Pankratops here, otherwise he's just going to negate the Pankratops with Dragoon anyways, which is a little unfortunate for me. I think that maybe it would have been better if I didn't, if I saved it, because he only had 1 card in hand, right? Which means he can only negate 1 card between his turn and my turn. So on my turn, I use the Miscellaneousaurus, ditching it to the graveyard. Hopefully, like, it'll do something, but yeah, unfortunately, I think that this was, like, pretty rough on my end. I mistakenly normal summoned Gamma and attempted to use the effect. I just misclicked. I was supposed to press, or, like, you know, act or summon Oviraptor and use the effect. But he opts not to negate, like, anything with the Miscellaneousaurus or the Dragoon. And basically, I lose this one because of the Tikapoo. So if he didn't have Tikapoo, I think I could have easily won that match, but he played really smart with his cards, and I respect him for that. So Red Eyes Fusion is going to start off, and he's going to get a Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, and then he's going to activate a Pot of Desires, which is really interesting that he's playing both of those cards in the same deck, because if you banish the, like, you know, any of your bricks, it's, like, really rough. But I believe in this entire series, every time Dragoon hits the field, we basically lose. So I'll see if we can make this a little different. I activate Swords of Concealing Light, and he opts to let that go through, which is a little interesting. I guess he's opting to keep his card advantage. And then I use Twin Twisters to get rid of 2 other back row, and then I use my Lost World and my Dinosaur Pankratops. And at that point, he gets a token, and then I can go ahead and just normal summon my Baby Sarosaurus. I think he should have used the Solemn Judgment he has set on my Pankratops, because it could have cleared over his Dragoon. But at this point, I get a lot of advantage because my Lost World's going to protect the token, and I get an Oviraptor from the deck, getting a search, and I'm going to get a rank 4 on the turn, I believe, on that same turn. And yeah, so we're going to go into game number 3. He starts off with an Extravagance, drawing 2 cards, and then he's going to set 4 back row and normal summon an Inspector Border, which is going to be really rough for me, especially because I didn't draw the Survival Zen this time. So I believe I start off with a Fossil Dig, searching for the Megalo Smasher, because I decided, like, it's going to protect my life points, and he's going to basically crash. Worst case scenario, he has a, like, Phantomite's card that's just going to boost it up, and he's going to kill me. And so that's a little unfortunate if he does that, but it's at least going to protect my life points a little bit. And he normal summons Fossil Dino Pachycephalo, and he opts to just pass his turn, which is really dumb, because looking at the replay, he had a Phantom Knight Sword in the back row, so he could have just swung over my Megalo Smasher just fine, so I'm not sure why he didn't do that. I probably should have boarded in the Quaking Mirror Force. I don't think I did. I think I should have done that over the PSY-Frame Gamma, but hindsight's 2020. So I used Twin Twister starting 2 back row. He uses Starlight's Road. He attempts to special summon Stardust, but you can't because of Poseidon and Pachycephalo, which I call him out on that. And then immediately after, I ironically summon my copy of Tornado Dragon, and we don't catch that, but he warnings it anyways. If I couldn't have special summoned it, I would have just attacked into Fossil Dyna, and he would have just flipped the Phantomite Sword and protected his monster anyway, so he could have won this match pretty much either way. I don't think there was any way I was realistically winning this match, just because I just drew really bad. I just didn't get the right cards, and you know what, he deserves the win at that point, but it's just a little unfortunate for me, and it was a really annoying match to play against, but GG's to him. Our third and final match today, let me just wait a second. Our third and final match today is a little bit of an interesting one. I think it's the shortest match that we're going to have in this entire series, at least for right now. He's playing zombies, so it was a really interesting deck. I think it's like Phantom Knight zombies. I don't really know how the deck works very well, but he starts off with a Uni-Zombie sending Gozuki to the graveyard, and then uses the second effect to send a Mizuki to the graveyard, and then he's going to use the Mizuki effect to bring back the Gozuki, and he's going to go into Hauki Fibrex. So as you can tell, this is pre-ban list, so this is the last time that we'll be seeing a card hit the field. Hauck is going to be going into a Link Cross here, and then he's going to get the 2 tokens. And I think he makes a really weird play here. So he goes into Metal Marcher, but he doesn't use the effect of Metal Marcher to bring back the Plague Spider. I think that was a really dumb option on his part. I don't know why he didn't do it. He definitely should have. I'm a little unfamiliar with the deck, but I think that it was just a free extender and he opted not to. He links into Boral Sword, which was really strange, and then he just like uses Mizuki to bring back a Gozuki and passes his turn. Like, I have no idea what his end goal was. Like, he's playing good cards, but he's not using them to the right extent, so I'm not sure what he's doing. I start off with the Pinkertops and use the effect to just clear this Boral Sword, just so he doesn't have any sort of follow-up, I guess. But my unexpected die gets hit with an Ash, and then I normal Ovi, and he just scoops it up. So I have no idea what he was doing. I just start playing as if like he didn't scoop it up. I don't think I could have killed him this turn, so as you can see, I go into a Pentastag, and then I banish 2 for the Conductor Tyranno. And then if I ended up attacking into him, he's going to take 35, and then I believe 18, and then like 16. And that would have left him with 1100 life points. I would have had a follow-up with the Conductor Tyranno, obviously, destroying the Petit Pteranodon. So I'm pretty sure I had this game in bag, even if he like drew an insane top deck. But yeah, it was just a really interesting match. I don't know why he just scooped it up, but that's going to do it for today's matches. So I'm not sure what he was thinking, but I don't know. So today we ended up playing 3 matches and winning 2 of them and losing 1. So it was the same record as the previous episode, and we're finally at an 8-8 record. So we've won as many matches as we've lost. So that's pretty interesting, and hopefully it's going to be completely just up from here, honestly. So hopefully we'll start losing matches less and winning matches more, and I think it's going to be really fun. I'm really excited to see what the future holds for this deck, especially because Miscellaneous Source is still at 3. But next time, we're going to be diving into the brand new format without Link Cross, without all these crazy combos, or at least crazy, end boards on just, having the Destruction Sword or whatever. But that's going to do it for today's video. If you want to support me on Patreon, go ahead and do that. The links are in the description below. And I appreciate you watching this video all the way through. And with all of that said, I'll see you next week.